to changes in another variable. Simply put, what will happen if price of X commodity, if it rises, to what extent its demand falls or its consumption falls, right? That is what we call it as elasticity. Because of one variable, if there are changes in one variable, what happens, or for that matter, if incomes of people, if they suddenly rise, right? So what will happen with respect to price? Incomes rising, consumption rising, prices rising, demand rising, supply rising. So what is that? To what extent in each and every aspect there is a change? That responsiveness, that measurement of responsiveness, that standard measure of responsiveness is what we call it as elasticity. And elasticity of demand, it's changes in the demand of the commodity due to changes in price, income, preferences, prices of substitute. That is what we call it as elasticity of demand. There are four types of elasticity: price elasticity, income elasticity, cross elasticity, and advertising elasticity. Now, what is advertising elasticity? Because of advertising impact, people prefer that particular, people buy that particular commodity. Now, how much of advertisement is pushing the product is what we call it as advertising elasticity. Or how much of price changes, level of price changes is affecting the consumption of a product or service is what we call it as price elasticity. And income elasticity is how much of changes in the level of income is affecting the consumption of the product or service is what we call it as income elasticity. Cross elasticity of demand, we buy certain basket of goods. Because of changes in price of one commodity is affecting the demand for the product of other commodity. This is what we call it as cross elasticity of demand. Now, why it is important to study in economics? Because elasticity helps you in determination of prices. How are people reacting to price changes? How are people reacting because of income changes? How are people reacting because of the changes in tastes and preferences? According to that, according to these responsiveness of within one variable, you determine the prices. And you might also, like I told you, Maruti had different set of models. Now, what is that? They just gave consumers or the customers the options wherein they could make choices. And because people are making choices, there was scope for the company to have price discrimination over there. Say lower model will come at lesser price, medium model will come at that, and top end one. And because of that options that they were, it was possible for Maruti to provide to the customers, they could tweak the prices, they could discriminate, they could make discrimination with respect to prices, and hence could add value to the product. And if they are adding value to the product, of course, it is definitely going to be in demand. And also, it is also elasticity of demand is also important because of government policies and taxation. To understand what impact the government policies of taxation is going to have on, say, the demand or supply of a product, elasticity study is more important. Now, coming back to theory of marginal utility or total utility. What is total utility? It is sum total of satisfaction of all the products. That is what we call it as total utility. Marginal utility, changes in the level of satisfaction on consumption of each additional unit of a particular commodity is what we call it as marginal utility. In other words, if you are buying milk, okay, say on a consistent basis, 1 liter you buy every day. Now, if you keep on adding, if you keep on increasing the quantity, what are you doing? On consistently increasing the quantity, there will be change in level of satisfaction or utility because you are marginally increasing the quantity that you are consuming. That is what we call it as marginal utility. Sum total of the product that you are consuming, sum total of satisfaction that you derive on consumption of a product is total utility. Each additional unit you keep on adding, right? So that satisfaction you derive, that is what we call it as marginal utility. Equimarginal, law of equimarginal utility. Now what is that? That says marginal utility of all commodities should be equal. Say for example, you're consuming 5 types of goods or services, right? If you increase the quantity of all the 5 goods, you should derive equal level of satisfaction of due to marginal increase in the consumption of all the 5 goods, right? Put it simply, you're buying 5 goods, you're increasing the consumption of 5 goods marginally, that is, you're buying all the 5 goods in equal proportions, you are increasing the consumption in equal proportions, and because of that, the marginal utility, that is the additional satisfaction that you derive because of changes in marginal consumption, should be same. Different products, they should give you, because you have increased the quantity that much, they should give you that same level of satisfaction. That is what equimarginal utility means. Now, what is diminishing marginal utility? Say for example, now you are buying 1 liter of milk, and over a period of time, you keep on increasing your consumption. That is, you keep on increasing your, if you are buying 1 liter of milk, your buying is consistent, 1 liter every time. But say for example, you are deriving satisfaction on consumption of half a liter of milk. For 15 days, for 1 month, for 6 months, you are going to have equal satisfaction, and after that, whatever milk you are going to consume, the level of satisfaction, it starts to drop down with every increase in the consumption. Say for 6 months you are drinking half a liter of milk. After 6 months, if you increase your consumption marginally, what happens? The satisfaction that you derive on marginal increase of consumption of milk, it starts to come down. That is what we call it as law of diminishing marginal utility. Of course, these things, they have a greater impact on buying behavior of consumers and customers, and that is the reason why we are studying these theories, these concepts, these applications. Of course, now this might appear to you as something out of this world, but nothing. If you see law of diminishing marginal utility, how it is applicable in real world, that means, again, coming back to this, why we are studying this, if you're giving, the reason I told you why Surf Excel couldn't do, even though the product was great, or why Tata Motors couldn't do well because even though the product was great, the brand was great, is only because they didn't provide the customer with options on a consistent basis. Now, if you're not providing them options on a consistent basis, what happens is that even though the product is good, even though your parents have bought Tata Motors, your grandparents have bought the product from Tata Motors, you may not buy it because of every successive addition of a vehicle from Tata Motors is going to decrease your utility, decrease your satisfaction. And how do you understand that? You understand that by law of diminishing marginal utility. For example, you might be buying a product from a certain brand. Okay, so because of that, what happens is that every successive consumption of product from the same brand starts giving you less and less utility. So in that case, what should be done? That is the point where you need to make a steady observation with respect to market. Say for example, a product or a brand might be doing well on a consistently, say 10 years, 20 years or 25 years. Now what could be the reason? Is being the product so good the only reason, or the price is it so attractive, or the brand value is it because of strong brand value? Why is it having? There will be certain reasons, and all those reasons they point out to only one factor. Because they have been providing consistently different set of choices, consumers prefer that product, and they prefer the product because it gives them highest level of satisfaction. That's all for now. Take care.